Let's be honest, we are drowning in data. It's everywhere. News headlines, your social media feed, everywhere you look. But how do you actually make sense of it all? Well, today, we're going to dive into a few simple but really powerful statistical ideas that will give you the tools to do just that.
You see charts and numbers thrown at you all day long, but what are they actually trying to tell you? In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain, look past all the raw numbers, and find the real story hiding underneath.
So, where do we even start? Well, the first step is knowing that pretty much all data comes in two fundamental flavors. And once you get this one distinction, I promise everything else just starts to click into place. Okay, so on one side, you've got qualitative data. This is all about the story, the context, the why behind things. And on the other side, you have quantitative data. That's the hard numbers, the counts, the measurements. You can think of them as two completely different languages that, when you put them together, tell you the whole story. So let's jump into that first world, the world of stories. This is where we go way beyond just what happened, and we start to explore the rich, kind of messy, and complex reasons why it happened in the first place. Right, so qualitative data isn't about numbers at all. It's descriptive. It's the kind of information you'd get from a really good conversation or just by observing something. It is perfect for digging into people's experiences, their opinions, their behaviors. It is all about the nuance. And because of that, this kind of data is by its very nature non-numerical. We're dealing with words, with descriptions. It's also really exploratory, which just means researchers use it when they want to uncover brand new ideas or understand a topic on a much, much deeper level. You know, this brings us to a really key part of qualitative data. It's subjective. It's kind of like that classic story of the blind man and the elephant, where each person touches a different part and describes the whole animal completely differently. The goal isn't to find one single objective truth, but to weave together all those different perspectives to finally see the whole elephant. So how do we actually go about collecting these stories? Well, the methods are probably things you've heard of. In-depth interviews that capture someone's personal journey, or focus groups where people can bounce ideas off each other. Every single method is designed to capture that rich human context. All right, let's switch gears. We're shifting from the world of why over to the world of how much. This is where we get into the cold, hard numbers and the measurable facts of a situation. Quantitative data is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's all about quantities. If you can count it or if you can measure it, it's quantitative. This is the bedrock of most of the stats you see every single day because it gives us concrete numbers we can actually analyze and compare. And its key traits are super straightforward. It's always in numbers, it's always measurable, and, this is a big one, it tends to be way more objective. See, unlike a story, a number is just a number. There's a lot less room for personal interpretation. But just when you think you've got it all figured out, there's another layer to this. It turns out, not all numbers are created equal. They can actually be split into two very distinct categories. And this visual just makes the whole concept crystal clear. On the one hand, you have what's called discrete data, which is like counting individual drops of water. They are whole, separate things. But on the other hand, you have continuous data, which is like a flowing stream that you can measure to a smaller and smaller and smaller degree. So let's make that a little more real. The number of students in a classroom is discrete, right? You can't have half a student. But a person's height is continuous. You can always get more precise, from 1.8 meters to 1.81 to 1.812, and on and on. One is counted, the other is measured. That's the key difference. Okay, so we know the different kinds of data now, but what can we actually do with all these numbers? Well, a fantastic place to start is to summarize them, to basically boil down a whole messy batch of data into a single meaningful value. This is called finding the central tendency. Now, I know that's a fancy term for a really simple idea. What's the typical number in this group? And the most famous way to do this, the one we all learned back in school, is calculating the mean, or as we all know it, the average. And this is why the mean is so powerful. I mean, imagine trying to compare the height of every single one of these teacup giraffes one by one. It'd be a nightmare. Instead, we can just compare their average heights. The mean gives us one clean, simple number to represent the entire group, which makes comparing things a breeze. And figuring it out is incredibly easy. You just follow this simple 3-step recipe. First, you add up all the values you have. Second, you count how many values there are.
And third, you just divide that big sum by the count. That's it.
Let's run a super quick example. Imagine 6 friends read 4, 2, 6, 1, 5, and 3 books this month. Okay, we add all those up and we get 21. Then we just divide that by the 6 friends, and voila, the mean or the average is 3.5 books. Simple as that. So we've explored the world of stories and the world of numbers. Now it's time for the most important part, bringing them back together to get the complete full picture. This quote just nails it. The numbers tell you what happened, but the stories are what tell you why. For instance, quantitative data might tell you that your sales dropped by 10%, but it's the qualitative data, the stories from customer interviews, that's going to tell you why they dropped. And that's really the main takeaway here. Neither type of data is better than the other. They're two essential pieces of the exact same puzzle. If you want to truly, deeply understand anything, you absolutely need both, the objective numbers and the human stories behind them. So I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time you see a news headline with some big number or a shocking statistic, I want to challenge you to just pause for a second and ask, what's the story behind that number? What's the why? Because now you actually have the tools to start finding out.